Oh boy. How's everybody doing tonight? Let's stop that. Welcome to Paranormal Round Table. I'm your host, Josh Turner. People call me Wolf. And it's been a busy, hectic week, and it's only Tuesday. But I'm glad to be here. Glad to be alive. Just going over some notes. So we have a show planned for you today. I think it's gonna be a good show. I mean, I was told by a very, very good guy. He's a well-respected author. I had the pleasure to talk to the other day, and he told me that I don't have bad shows. He actually watches my show. I was honored, and I'm not gonna say anything yet because I'm gonna try to work with him, and we're gonna keep it. We're gonna do a project together. I have a lot of irons in the fire when it comes to paranormal stuff. I'm always working on 4 or 5 different things, and I'm trying to bring you the best that I can. Had some funny things happen this past week. It just, I can't. Sometimes when the universe throws you curveballs, you hit them out of the park, or sometimes you just strike out, and all you can do is shake your head, and you laugh. That's all you can do. But when you strike out, you can become a better hitter, or you can go into a slump. You learn from your mistakes. You learn how to hit that curve, what it takes to hit it. So that's what we've been doing. I'm going to start off. I'm going to read the Patreon, and I'm going to jump right into some stuff, and then we're going to have a special guest come on, as usual. He's going to come on after we get all that out of the way. But I got a really creepy story I want to tell you. So right out the gate, but I'm going to wait till the chat room fills up a little bit. And this freaking phone is like freezing. Dude, there you go, finally. Golly. All this technology, just giant pain in the butt. All right. We got some new Patreon people now. Jason Tyson, Eldor Ortega, Deborah Patterson, Lauren Russo, Andrew, Gloria Smith, Stephen Bates, Peter Haralamos, Ricardo Ramirez, Spencer Riley, Vicky Walker, Stephen Rivas, Michael Turner, Martin Hertel, Charles Hamill, Melissa Taylor, Alexandra Orick, Maynard W., Adam Jinks. I need my glasses. I can see that right now. Jim Kovach, Cassidy Lee, Kenny Irish, Josh and Kelly Herrera, Vulcan Death Grip, David Allman, Christy, Shonda Hardinger, Brady Matsunaga, Cyrili, David Vigil, Fat Squatch, Sonia Girding, Dorothy Metcalf, Mimi Piccolelli, Polly G, Melissa Koyman, Pauline Rome, Stephen Hall, Miguel Guerra, Eric Garcia, Tim Lewis, Super Hornet 1, Debbie Wolf, Graydon McKee, Extreme Reality Check, James Estrada, Tim Bernard, Ricardo Herrera, Titan, Dead Man Walking, Guy, Derek Tribble, Dick Richards, Joyce Brunette, Barbara Blindy, Martin Hertel, Terry Fusler, Chris Clough, Curtis Turner, Alexander Murphy, and Matthew Durgo. Thank you all for being Patreon supporters of the show. Quite frankly, can't do it without you guys. It's just as simple as that. It's a numbers game, and if we don't have the numbers, we just can't do it. So, as usual, the link to this show will be dropped on the Paranormal Round Table group. If you're not a member of the Paranormal Roundtable group, go and join. It's on Facebook. It's free to join. And that's our main group, my main group that I'm the admin of. Excuse me, man. But if you go and you join the group, you will be able to enter into the giveaways every show. Not every week, every show. Okay, so twice a week we pick a winner and you win an autographed book from one of many, many authors. And it could be Lyle Blackburn, could be Ken Gerhard, could be, Barton Nunley. It just depends. Lon Strickler, there's a bunch of them, Chad Lewis. A lot of great authors that I deal with and do business with. David Weatherly, D.A. Roberts, So we'll send you a book, and usually we send you some swag in there too. If you are a $10 tier Patreon member and you've been for 3 months, you will get a swag bag. If you are a $20 tier, you're automatically eligible to get one. So send me a email, or drop it on the Facebook Messenger, which is easier for me to do when it comes to that, to keep track of it. And I can send you out your swag. So anyways, we're going to start probably doing the mail offs probably every 2 weeks. So because it's easier, it's just hard, and it's not any other reason than just for me to be able to get to the post office. I don't have time to scratch my head or any other part of my body for that. I got so much going on. So I need to be able to go a little bit less. I can't run up there every week. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Like today I just did a bunch of running around and there was just a lot going on. So yeah, I'm going to need to get a little bit of time. So if you win, you might get it soon, you might not. It might take another week. It just depends. And so just so you know, you will be given what you got coming to you. So if anybody that's listening wants to be entered into the giveaway, when I drop the link to this show and all the past shows, they will go onto the Paranormal Roundtable group. It'll say on their official link, you go and you leave a comment. Doesn't matter what the comment is, as long as it's not offensive. And I mean offensive as in, like, don't be saying a bunch of stuff, because Facebook's probably going to punish you anyway if you do. But, well, if you do it to me, they probably won't. They'll be like, oh, well, they're just talking about killing him. Well, it's, But, yeah, so, yeah, if you leave a comment, you can be entered to win. Here's the thing, guys. We still have tickets left for the show. We just recently had somebody cancel on the VIP, so I don't know if that ticket has been snatched up yet or not. But, yeah, we have, I think we have 1 or 2 VIP tickets available if you run over there and get them. So that's what you got to do. We are selling them steadily. I wouldn't say they're like going fast, but they're not going slow either. They're going steadily. Now remember, we had 400 tickets, and we're approaching, I think we may have about 100 left, because I was mistaken. I thought we were almost at max, and I thought, okay, because I had said something about we had 100. The capacity of the place is 400, something like that, or 410. I don't know the whole thing, whatever, but it's well under capacity. Okay. And so thank you, John Villafranco. You're always so generous. Thank you so much, John, that donation. But yeah, donations are not expected, but they're appreciated. I mean, they help us keep the show going. They keep the wheels turning. So Eventbrite, if Anthony be so generous as to put the link up there for everybody, you can be so kind and let everybody know that they can go to Eventbrite and purchase tickets for the Dogman conference. It's under first annual Paranormal Roundtable presents first annual Dogman / Cryptid conference, and the tickets are still available. We made a mistake. Ken Gerhard, because he's a doofus, he made a mistake. You know me, I don't make mistakes. Other people do, and then I get blamed for them. It's kind of been my whole life. That's just the way it's been. You know, so Ken made a mistake on the poster. He left off Vault and he left off Josh Pinocchio. They are going to be there. Along with Lyle Blackburn, he's going to be there too. And he was the last one that he wanted to make sure. He just announced it on his page the other day that he is going to be there. Okay. So I appreciate him clearing his schedule to go, and everybody else that's cleared their schedule to go and it's going to be there. I really appreciate it. And what I mean by being a doofus, like when I was a kid, I never did anything wrong. Never. I remember, okay, like for instance, I threw a tennis ball in my sister's direction. It hit a lamp. The lamp fell and broke. I got punished. I got spanked. It was kind of her fault. You know, I threw it at her. Okay, I threw it to her. She should have caught it. I threw it as fast and as hard as I could from like 5 feet away. But I still don't feel like that should have factored into the fact that she didn't catch it and it hit her in the face, like above her eye, and then kind of bounced into the lamp. That's not my fault. Learn to catch. She played softball at that time. You see my point? Another time, she made me really, really angry. So I took a BB gun and I went out and I shot something I should not have shot, but I wasn't trying to shoot it. I was shooting something else and it ricocheted. Now, my judgment was clouded by her bad behavior. My sisters were terrible people. One of them is not anymore. The other one still is. She's just garbage. But they drove me to do things that I should not have had to be punished for. Okay? I did do stints as a kid in different places, and there again, none of those were my fault. I gently shot a pistol into a storage shed. Nobody was inside, and I was literally trying to scare off the armadillos that were infesting it, and I told the police that, and they didn't want to believe it. Another time I was driving a vehicle. 2 of my friends went to break into a house. I was accused of driving the getaway vehicle. I was like, look, I knew they were going to break into the house. I did not know they were actually going to take things. I thought they were just going to look at the designs on the inside and see if maybe later in our lives we wanted to build that. And we decided no. And then they took some things and I was driving. Stuff like that. See, I never did anything wrong. It wasn't me. But, I'm a product of the system, yo. You know what I'm saying? It's just how it goes. I mean, I've never really been at fault. It's just a victim of circumstance. I've been one my whole life. I've been forced to punch people's eyes out of their head, gently hitting them about the face, breast, chest, neck, and head area due to their own incompetence. Ronnie Kelly says, bit narcissistic. I disagree. Politely disagree. I think you're a fool. I'm just kidding, Ronnie. You're probably a great person. I'm joking, folks. You know I'm kidding. You know what? I've done a lot of crazy, stupid things in my life, and it's my fault. I take responsibility for it. I take responsibility for what I've done. Every time I got locked up as a kid or did anything stupid, it was actually my fault. I engaged in those activities. So, and no, it was no armadillo infestation. I just wanted to fire a gun in town. I did gently fire it. Yeah, it was dumb. It was dumb. I did dumb things. It's just, you're a kid, you do dumb things, I lived like a little outlaw. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown real quick of these list of groups to join on Facebook if you're interested. These are the groups I manage. Paranormal Round Table, obviously. Paranormal Lounge, which is Nellie's. Paranormal Round Table Prayer Group, which is mine and Nellie's. Dogman Werewolf Discussion. I'm an admin in that. Wolf Turner PRT fan page. Obviously, I'm an admin in that, but I didn't create that fan page, and I'm not flattering myself, self-aggrandizing, nothing like that. Phil Stern created that, and Whisper to a Scream with Ryan, North American Dogman Project Region 2, Paranormal Encounters, the Paranormal Trucker Podcast, and Quad Coalition of Sciences. And I believe I was an admin in another North American Dogman Project group, but I guess I'm not now. Okay, guess they gave me the boot. I don't know what I did. Unless it folded up or something. I don't know. Beekeeper says, no, Wolf, you are the victim. Yes, I am the victim. I fight with every other podcaster on the planet and every author and every researcher, but I am always the victim. It's always their fault. And apparently none of my fans ever figure out that there's a common denominator, me. I can't imagine what that must be like to always be the victim. I just can't imagine. It must be really hard. It is. It is. But so I'm going to be recording. I did a show last night. If anybody didn't catch it, Texas, as in TEX apostrophe S, because his name is Tex. When it was posted on the YouTube last night, it said Texas. Okay, that was a mistake. It's actually Texas, as in his name is Tex, and it was called Texas Front Porch. And I was on that show last night for a couple of hours, and him and Jason are good guys, good hosts, whatever, and met him at the Mineola Dogman conference. They said they liked my show and they wanted to do a show with me, and so I came on, and I actually did the show last night. We talked about a lot of crazy stuff, but one of the stories that I gave him was a Dogman story that I was planning on sharing on this show. But I told it on that show. So, you want to go check it out on that show, that's fine. I don't like to just repeat the same stories or whatever. But it was pretty crazy. A guy was in his trailer house, in a trailer home, and they were building a house next to it. And this thing came out of the woods. It was a Dogman, pretty much, it was in Arkansas, basically the size of a Bigfoot, of a large Bigfoot. And he saw a snout on it, which says, hey, Dogman. But, yeah. So, let me see if I can get this going here. This is not working. I'm going to start off tonight with we're almost at 200 people, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Here's a crazy story. I'm going to start off right here. This one was given to me, oh my gosh, and I was just talking to Nellie about it a couple days ago with one of our workers. I think it was in Connecticut. I'm pretty sure I think it was in like Hartford, Connecticut or something. Anyway, and Namiria, this is actually, I got this one. This is not one that Kevin Panay that was on my show. He makes shark tooth necklaces, and I got 2 or 3 of them from him. But the material, the deals kind of got messed up because I wore one, got wet. But anyway, I got the other one. I don't want to mess with it. I just have it put up. It's a keepsake. But this one is actually I got from a dealer who catches it. This is actually a megalodon tooth, but it's a juvenile megalodon. Now it's crazy because the juveniles were actually as big as full-grown great whites, and I have a great white petrified tooth that's the size of this one. So yeah, it's crazy, but it's inlaid with turquoise. And so, but yeah, Kevin does some amazing work with those. And he, if you haven't listened to those shows, it was really cool. And I enjoyed talking to Kevin. It was the Hawaiian episodes. We had Ann Celine on this past Friday. She's talking about a lot of cool stuff. You got to get on there and listen. I mean, check it out. And I know that she delves in depth into her Bigfoot encounter on this next one coming up on Friday. And it was pretty scary. She had a really weird, like creepy encounter with the Bigfoot. So you got to check it out. But yeah, Kevin does good work. And he goes and he finds shark teeth and he makes necklaces and stuff, and it's pretty good. He's Hawaiian. But yeah. So what happened was with this story I'm going to tell you, and then I got somebody's going to come on in about 30 minutes, and we're going to talk some Dogman, some Bigfoot, and some other ghost stuff. This was a creepy story. Okay, this guy had been dating this girl, okay, and he is by trade a computer programmer. He is a very no-nonsense, like, hey, man, if ghosts exist, prove it to me kind of guy. He was, until this happened. Now, he did have an interest in Bigfoot, like, you know, in passing. He had told me that he had read one of Lauren Coleman's books back in the day, but that's how he, you know, found this. But he was not in the ghost, didn't believe in ghosts, didn't have any kind of nothing. And we had a conversation, you know, and just he told me his story. He says, I'm going to tell you a story. I read it and I liked it, and I said, I got to talk to this guy. And so through him, I ended up talking to the female that was involved in this. Amy, thank you for that donation. Appreciate it. Here's what happened. They are now together. They are engaged. But when they were first dating, first going out, they would go out on a date like proper people. And then he would take her to the house. Hey, have a good night, whatever. There was a house that was next door to her house. She had 2 roommates. And they lived together in a big 4-bedroom house that they were renting. And there was a house next door. And there were people in and out of there all the time. And that's one of the things that she told me. She was just like, it was a revolving door. And I know because the house I used to live in South Austin, the one next door to us, was the same way because it was haunted too. And it was just a revolving door of people. I stayed where I was at because the rent was cheap. I was paying like maybe 2/3 of what my neighbors were paying. And so, yeah, it was crazy. So here's what happened. They come home from a date, and he's sitting there talking to her, trying to impress her. You know, he's still at the stage where you got to impress her. Like, I'm at the stage with my wife, I don't got to impress her. She knows what I look like. She knows how I am. She doesn't care anymore. I don't care anymore. She just like, get away from me, rolls over. I say get away from her, and we roll over, and we look at our phones. We barely talk. In fact, we have a rule. If she gets too close to me, I throw a flip-flop at her. If I get too close to her, she slaps me. You know, it works. I'm just, I'm joking, folks. That is not how me and Nelly are. Okay, Fat Squatch, thank you for that donation, Fat Squatch. No, they pull up, and the way he described was a garage. The door on the garage was really high up, like several feet, like beyond a 6-foot person. There's these little windows there, but some of these garages aren't real practical. It was like that. And he told me, he's like, you'd have to jump up to kind of look out. You couldn't. And so while they're sitting there talking, he goes, they had the windows down. It was late spring, whatever. They were sitting there talking. And he looks over and he sees movement in that garage, and he's like, I think your neighbor's trying to watch us or something. And she's like, my neighbors? She's like, I don't have any neighbors. There hasn't been anybody in that place in 2 months. And he's like, I just saw what looked like it was black. He goes, but it was, it looked like a black, but he couldn't say it was like, not like an African-American person, a black person, or a darker skinned person. He said it just looked like black, something move up and down. So he figured it was a person. And he says, while they were sitting there talking, they look over and they see yellow eyes. He said that they could see them just clearly. I mean, just like it was staring. It gives me the chills even. It was so crazy. And then it was like staring right at them. And they were just like sitting in her driveway, and they were dumbfounded. And so they got out of the vehicle and they went inside, and her roommate was up, and she was making herbal tea or something. And so they sat down, they had a tea, and they just kind of, like, whoa, this is something weird. Let's just, so they just kept talking about what they were talking about. And then she eventually tells her roommate, and I think her name was like Cindy, but eventually Susan tells Cindy, Susan is the girlfriend, and she says, hey, something weird just happened. We just, we're Rob thought he saw somebody in the window of the garage. And then when there was nothing there, and then when I looked, there was like 2 yellow glowing eyes. And she's like, you know what? She's like, I was leaving for work the other morning. She went to work like 5 a.m. She was like, I was leaving for work the other morning, and I could have swore I saw red dots, in the window. As I pulled out my car and was driving out, I looked over and I thought I saw red dots, like 2. And they almost look like eyes, So they go back outside, all 3 of them, and they just kind of look, and they look, and they're like, they kind of throw their hands up, and as they're walking off, they turn back around and they see 2 red dots up in the window. And I think he said it was the second to the last, closest to the entrance of the door. And they're like, oh my gosh. There's no way this could have been mistaken for a person. They would have had to have been way too tall. Okay. And there was nobody living there. And these red dots, I mean, it looked like, laser dots, 2 of them. And they were kind of moving a little bit, And he said it was just a terrifying, terrifying thing. And then while they were standing there on the edge of that between the 2 properties, the garage shook. The garage door shook. So they take off into her garage, into his girlfriend's garage, and they're inside, and they're like, the heck with that, and it freaked them out, and so they were just all kind of standing there like, what's going on here? Well, the boyfriend of one of the other girls that lived there, he'd come downstairs and he was like, what's going on? And they were, he was like, what's happening? He heard him like kind of talking loud and frantic. So they explained to him what happened, and he goes, oh my gosh. He's like, dude, I was walking the dog the other day by there, and he goes, I heard like a somebody whistle, like somebody like trying to get my attention, like, hey, psst, like that. And he looks over, and he thought he saw a very decrepit-looking old man just with white hair, but it looked like he had white hair all over his body, and he was standing in the window. And he said that he was standing there staring at him, and then all of a sudden he just sees him back off, and then he kind of faded away, and he was like, whoa, what the heck was that? Well, they had some neighbors that moved in. And about two months in, the neighbors were very weird. They kind of kept to themselves. One of the neighbors came over, and he was just very blunt. And he says, hey, I'm going to ask you a weird question. Do you know anything about the people who used to live in this house? And they were like, there have been many. The house sat vacant for a while too. And he said, yeah. He goes, the real estate agent, it even changed real estate agents. Like the real estate agent said that the person that was showing the house had something kind of weird happen to her, and they divulged that. They said there was something weird, that she felt like something had pulled her hair. And so she's like, he goes, we needed a place to stay. We didn't have, time to, whatever. But he goes, we're thinking about breaking our lease and leaving. And he's like, well, what kind of stuff's going on? Him and his girlfriend, they were like asking. And he tells them, he says, dude, my wife got pushed down the stairs. We've seen a shadow-looking thing moving down the hallway. So, a couple of things happened. Their dog got hurt one night, got kicked or rolled down the stairs. Something happened. And so they moved out. And I'm talking like Amityville Horror, middle of the night. Like they were moving out. They were coming home from having dinner. And they were like, what's going on? They're like, we're leaving. We're done. We're out. He's like, we've had weird stuff happen here. Water coming off and on. Scalding hot water. Freezing cold water. I mean, lights going on and off. The dishwasher, opening up and stuff coming out of. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. It was a bad thing. Well, here it gets worse. Ricardo Ramirez, thank you for that donation, and Shonda, thank you for that donation. Appreciate it. Here's what's really messed up. And like this isn't messed up enough, but this part really got me. And me and my wife were talking about it. It was like, dude, this is crazy. Okay, so what happened is they got brave. Okay, when these people moved out, they heard this weird kind of moaning noise coming from the house every now and then, and it would just kind of go like a groan, like ah, you know. And that's, I can't do it the way they describe. But anyway, it was like a groan, like somebody was in pain or something, but like just, you know, kind of lazily in pain. That's the way it sounded, you know. That's my words, because that's how they kind of said it. Was just kind of like a, you know, like a dull groan. And so they're like, what, is there somebody over there? Is there a homeless person over there? So they go over to the, and there's like 2 front windows right there. Like there's like a little, it was a very pretty house, the way they described it. You know, it had like these 2 wooden planks in front of it, kind of like an old tiny fence or whatever. And then you walk around and there's like a front porch, you know. And so they looked in the window, and these 2 girls, this, oh my gosh, if you could see the hair on my arm standing up, this was creepy beyond. I mean, they see this black figure standing at the foot of the stairs. They could clearly see it. They said it had its hand was on the rail, and it was staring at them, just looking at them, and it had its mouth open. Oh God, it's so creepy. She said, she asked me this. She's like, have you ever seen Darth Maul? And I said, yes, I've seen, you know, and I've heard this before. This is the first time I've heard something similar to this. So I started thinking about it, and I said, isn't this, there's like a movie, I can't remember the name of it. It was the guy that played he played Ed Warren in those Annabelle movie, all that. He's always playing Ed Warren. I can't remember the guy's name. If anybody wants to look him up and put the name on, that'd be great. But, and Liberty, thank you for that donation. It's greatly appreciated. So that guy was on a show, and I think it was called The Conjuring, where the guy was like red and black. The demon was like black and red or whatever. Well, anyways, I mentioned that, and I said, have you ever seen that? And then she kind of paused for a minute, and she says, you know what? I know what you're talking about. So she went back and she looked it up, and she's like, Insidious. There you go. Thank you, Madeline. You get the no prize. In fact, Madeline, you know what? You got it correct. You got it correct. So you know what? Hit me up on Messenger. I'll send you something. All right? All the stuff that we push into the coffee mugs, you can have all of it. All of as much as you want. The styrofoam, the styrofoam peanuts, done. Yours. No, I'm joking. Seriously though, Madeline, you got me on that one. There you go. The Demon and Insidious. There you go. Hit me up for real, Madeline. I'll send you something. I'll send you a book. I love to do giveaways. Look, here's the thing. She said, and this was not. And so I told her. I said, "No, we get it. Slow down." I was like, "You don't think that maybe you were tempered? Maybe you saw that demon at some point?" She's like, "I never saw the movie." The girl that her roommate did. Cindy had seen the demon in the movie, whatever. But she said it wasn't totally like that, but kinda. This thing was standing there. It was standing there, 2 legs up and down, like a monster-looking creature, just standing there. And then it just like went, and it went straight up the stairs real fast. And it was loud. It made noise, like going up the stairs. Black and red, with red eyes. And it had a tail. Oh my God, it had a tail. And she said the tail was like a prehensile tail. You know, it was like a cat, like a. Oh, okay. And these are the kind of stories I get. That really, that's, you know. And my wife said yesterday, "Oh, you know what? You were having a nightmare." Yeah, I bet I was. I probably was. I remember part of a nightmare that I woke up to today. There was a guy in a cloak, and this isn't a joke. He was writing, and I zoomed. It was like I zoomed in on his hands, and blood was sweating out of his hands. He was wearing a cloak, and he was writing with a quill. I don't know what that means, but that's a dream I had. Yeah, but you know, I know now. You know, not to eat, you know, huge meal and then just raid the medicine cabinet and just take everything in there and just see what happens. I'm kidding, folks. I I did not do that. I did not know. I did not do that. In fact, I didn't take anything. And woke up and I needed my meds when I woke up. But hey, B Moss, how you doing? So you tell me. So they see this creature, and they were just like, "Oh my gosh!" So they ran back into their house or whatever, and they saw it again. The other room, there was 3 girls that lived there, and then her boyfriend, one of them's boyfriend, who kind of was just couch surfing, and then they broke up or whatever. But they stayed friends, so he was around. I don't know, it was some kind of weird thing, whatever. But they were upstairs, and they had like one of those, like there's a living area upstairs, and they were all playing a game. And they had neighbors over, and one of them said, "Hey, your neighbor is a pervert." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "There's some old guy over there who was standing in the window with no pants, like he was just there." But they said there was like a thin curtain, so they couldn't really make out. But they were like, "Dude, obviously he was not wearing clothes, but he was standing there." And they were like, "What?" And so, and then one night, one of the females that was there said, okay. So anyway, one of the guys was standing there, and they had like a pool table upstairs. They had moved the pool table. This was like maybe a couple weeks after they had just gotten it, and they had a game table and a pool table, whatever. It was a big house, and they were playing pool, whatever, and having a couple beers, and they hear like a screeching scream, whatever, coming from outside. They go and they look, and right downstairs on the side of that house that was still vacant at this time was this weird looking black entity, and then it just kind of backed up into the shadow of the wall and was gone. They talked to one of the realtors, which I'm still waiting to hear back to see if she's willing to talk to me. She's probably like, "Who are you, weirdo? I don't want to talk to you." And weird show, whatever. She probably don't want to talk to me, whatever. So I had to at least try. But one of the realtors that said that one of the reasons why they couldn't rent it was because when they would show the house to people would see stuff. Like they would see stuff in the mirror. They would see stuff. And I know what that's like. I lived in a haunted house where I would look up and something would run behind me in the mirror. But one time when I was working at Palo Santos, which was a really bad place off of Runberg here in Austin, if anybody knows Runberg, it is it's a war zone. There are always shootings and stabbings. The person got stabbed the second night I was there. Those fighting, violence, stabbing, shootings, people threatening each other. There's hypodermic needles. It's everywhere. It's bad. But so I've talked about this place before, but we had an apartment that they had let us use. So we could keep, our stuff in there, whatever. So I came in one morning because I was working the day shift at that time. So for about 3 solid months, I had to work days, which was rough on me, trying to transition from nights to days. So I had to get myself used to it. And I was in there combing my hair and brushing my teeth, whatever. And I heard footsteps, and the door is locked. Just, you have to lock that door. There's people, crazy people in there will come and do something really bad to you. And so I'm just like, immediately like, I'm armed. You better back off. Blah 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 blah. I saw somebody clearly looking at me in the mirror. He looked like an African American guy, and I turned around, and there was nobody there. Well, there was an African American guy who had lived in that apartment, and he would still come on the property. I got along with him. He would still come on the property, and he would talk to the neighbor upstairs from there. They were still friends. And the guy upstairs, his name was Dennis. He was an old guy. He's a very nice guy. And he had seen some weird stuff in that place. He'd been there for a long, long time. And he was still friends with, I think the guy's name was Barney. And so there were a couple old guys, whatever. So he came in one night, and I said, "Barney, how long did you live in that particular unit?" And he said, "Oh, I lived there for about 4 years." And I said, "Did you ever have anything weird happen to you?" He goes, "Oh yeah. He goes, "The guy that lived there before me was murdered." And I was like, "That's great." He's like, he goes, "I've been coming here and been friends with, some of the residents here before I moved in over here." He goes, "And that guy who used to live there was a bad guy." So this guy I worked with, he opened a Bible He was from El Salvador. Very nice guy. Very religious. He opened the Bible and it was in Spanish, and he would stand and he would read it, and he was a maintenance guy, and he'd go and he'd do his job. Every morning I'd come in, hey man, what's up, Luis? He'd have the Bible open. And one of my guards was in there, and he hears tum, and he looks over, and the Bible's been cast off of the counter. So yeah, we didn't spend a lot of time in that apartment. We just kept our stuff in there. Used the fridge, the microwave, kept food and stuff and weapons. You know, illegal weapons. I'm not talking about like we weren't using like ball and chains and, you know, whatever, cat o' nine tail, you know what I'm saying. But, you know, it was just, you know, thank you, Grace, for that donation. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that story is a very creepy story. Yeah, and when I was telling my wife that, and I went back and I got the rest of the story, you know, and so, you know, it was just, Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. Anybody knows who that is? It really creeped me out. It really creeped me out. It was it's not like, because I mean, like what they told me was their house, they didn't have problems inside their house. But next door, yeah, a lot of weird stuff. And they would see it, you know. So, anyways, moving on. What are you talking about? Bettina just says, I've never been so scared in my whole life. Oh, okay. When those entities are always lurking around, people astral project. Yes, I know about astral projection. I could sit here from dusk till dawn and tell you story. Especially, you know, since I've been given permission from Josh to use his library. And, you know, there's a free flow of information between me and most of the NADP. You know, never going to run out of stories. Somebody told me one day, they're like, oh, you're going to run out of stories and you're not going to be able to do your show. Now I'm going to be glad. I'll be there to see you fall, Josh Turner. And I'm like, oh, God, what am I going to do? I'm going to hire some creative writers or something. I don't know what. I'm done. Why don't you put her in charge? No, you just go make connections. Met a guy at the gym the other night. Me and Anthony. We're in there working out. The guy owns a professional sports team. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, used to box. We started talking because Anthony was doing some stuff, you know, and I was giving him a few pointers. And the guy came in there, and he's a former boxer, and we hit it off, and he's got stories. Got stories. I mean, everybody you talk to, all these people. I talked to this other guy. He's an aspiring rapper. He's used to live in Baltimore. He's like, I got stories. Every time you meet someone. Today at the mall, a guy gave me a story. These, I mean, it just goes on and on. But I never turn away from a story, you know, because it may be something, it may be nothing. Guy gave me a story today, and it was like, oh, I don't know if I could really use it. But I'm open to listening to it because I think every story you get brings you one step closer. One step closer to having nightmares. Anyways, you know what I'm saying, right, folks? You know, the kid in the neighborhood wears a purple shirt, runs real fast, has his hat on backwards. You know what I'm talking about? He's always over there lurking around, you know, eating the Jell-O pudding pops. No, we don't, Bill, but that doesn't stop you. You know, I gave him something in his coffee. No. Stimulate says, lived in a haunted house for 12 years. Seems like there have been 20 different people living there afterwards, in and out, trying to contact them if they notice anything. That's what happened to my old place. It's just been a revolving door. Every time I drive by there, there's like a different vehicle out there. So either this person is some kind of rich drug dealer person that's just buying a new vehicle every month. I mean, that could be too. It's a bad area. They could be like, you know, they could be just could be doing illegal stuff or something. I don't know. Who knows? But there's always somebody different in a different vehicle. So B, you had an OBE. Oh my gosh. Yeah, OBEs can be scary. I went into the Infinity dealership the other day to ask a question. There was a guy there named Maurice, who's a really nice guy here in Austin, right off Barnett Road. If you're listening, Maurice, I gave him a card. He's a really nice guy. And I had a couple questions for him. And we started talking, and his uncle had an out-of-body experience. And Maurice he's a very big, muscular guy. I mean, like I thought he was like 40. He said he's pushing 60. And I couldn't believe it. The guy lifts weights, like obviously. It's the fountain of youth, I'm telling you folks. If you don't lift weights, you should start. You'll be younger. You'll look younger. You'll feel better because it pushes growth hormone into your body. And it makes you, I'm not going to get into the whole science of it, whatever. But he said that his uncle sat there for 5 days after a car wreck. And then he woke up in the hospital, and he was waiting for someone to come get him. He just kept waiting and waiting and waiting and thought that somebody was going to come pick him up. Turns out his body was in the hospital. He was in a coma for 5 days. But his soul wasn't. Maurice said his soul, he's from Mississippi, Maurice. And he said this guy sat there waiting for 5 days for somebody to come get him. That's crazy. Folks, the spirit world is very real. People they have no idea. Thank you, Mike Turner, for that donation. Mike and Curtis are both last name Turner, but we're not related, but they are very nice guys, and I would love to actually be related to both of them. Mike Turner, me, been friends for a long time. Curtis Turner, me, been friends for a long time. We all have the same last name. We all look very different. But thank you, Mike, for that. Really good guy. I hope to see you at the conference, you and Curtis both. We all should take a picture, the three Turners. sounds like a group, the three Turners. The Fabulous Dramatics. Now, anyways, we're gonna make this call. I need to run right next to the office or whatever, and I will be right back. Folks, don't go anywhere. As soon as I come back, I'm gonna make a phone call, and we're gonna start talking some Dogman and Bigfoot. Okay? So just give me a second. I'm gonna put you on a brief pause. Please don't go anywhere. Don't run off. This won't even take 5 minutes. Okay? I'll be right back. Okay. All right, folks. Told you it wouldn't take long. I just had to get me Anthony just had stepped out, so dying of thirst over here. Delicious, refreshing, dry, Botanical bubbly. I like to drink it with or without liquor. I think it goes good by itself. It is quite a refreshing beverage, and it really hits the spot. That is not a paid advertisement. I'm actually practicing so I can get sponsors. I got a lot of irons in the fire. Hopefully, I'm waiting to hear back from some big names in the advertising business. They're mulling it over. But anyway, I hope I nailed that. You're going like, dude, please. John Philip Franco, thank you for that, another donation. I appreciate it, man. You don't have to do all that. These actually are, I think, mixers, but they're so good. I drink them by themselves. The ginger is really good, and then the lavender. I don't promote products that aren't. I got offered to do a sponsorship for a particular product that you put in your beard, and I was like, oh, cool, okay. If you like your beard being crispy and falling out when you comb it, and see, I have like very soft hair, and I have a soft beard, and I want it to stay that way. I'm gonna put some junk in my, and so I'm not gonna peddle it to you and be like, oh, I'm gonna buy this. Go ahead, buy it, see what happens. They're like Dumb and Dumber waiting for the prank. Because why would you do that? You're not going to do that to your listeners. But anyway, so we're going to make a phone call. We're going to get this started here. Put these freaking headphones on. Ridiculous. Let's get this party started.
Hello.
Hey, Eddie.
Hey, buddy. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good.
Doing good. So, did you work today?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
always fun.
Yeah, always fun. I feel like I didn't stop moving. I didn't get in last night until about 3:30. Once I did my workout and got everything done, and then I didn't settle in and get to sleep until about, I think, 8. Went to bed. But whatever time after I got off the phone with you. Early this morning, yeah, I went to bed, and then I was right back at it like 2 o'clock. I was like, whatever. No rest for the wicked. But so Eddie, I've been on your show. Eddie has a show. Let me introduce him, Eddie Hill. And you have a show. It's called Paranormal Analytical.
Right.
Yeah, and I was on your show in October. If that's correct. Yeah, I believe it was October. And we talked
somewhere around there.
Yeah, and we talked about Dogman and a few other things. I think there's an echo in the background, Eddie.
All right, hang on just a minute here. Let me fix that. All right, try.
Okay, can you hear me?
Testing 1 2. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's kind of echoing. I don't know what's going on. Like I'll say it, and then it'll. Do you have the show playing in the background?
Yeah, I'm adjusting that. Hold on.
What was that?
All righty, here we go. How's that?
You sound like you're kind of far away.
Okay, how's that now?
It's a little better.
Okay, trying to get this studio adjusted here. All righty, how's that sound? Testing 1 2.
Yeah, you sound kind of like, but we can hear you.
Is the audio not coming across good? Or?
Well, your audio sounds okay, but it sounds a little muffled. It sounds like you're a little bit, and you can still hear me kind of echoing in the background. That's why I'm like,
If he's listening to you on speakers, he should turn them down a little bit.
Yeah, Anthony just said if you're listening to me on speaker, you should turn me down a little bit.
Or if he has headphones, he can use those.
Or if you have headphones.
Hold on. Okay, we got headphones on now.
Okay.
How's that sounding?
You sound okay. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what I mean, you're going to be doing talking. So Eddie, you have a show now. You're a former police officer, but you're a current deputy sheriff, right? Sheriff's deputy?
Correct. Yeah. I retired from a police department with over 30 years, and now I'm working as a deputy sheriff. It's kind of like my retirement job, what I'm doing now. So I actually retired back in 2014, took some time off, went and rode Harleys and did the whole biker thing and put a badge back on, and here I am.
Yeah. So when you were riding your bike and you joined the gang and you were doing what you were doing, you go, you know what? This isn't for me. I want to be a cop again. Is that what happened?
No, I actually bought another house, and it was like I have to go back to work.
I'm messing with you. So Eddie, we hit it off because Ken Gerhardt introduced us. And
Correct.
He was like, hey, there's this guy that's got, he does Dogman and all that. And so I checked out your show, and then I went on your show in October. And so now you're on my show, but I'm going to need to record with you because you got a lot of stuff to talk about. Now, do you want to explain a little bit about your show and what you do and what you study? And you're based out of San Antonio.
Well, let's take a step back first. Let's go ahead and let's start with a little bit about how I got into the paranormal and I started doing all this. And you got to understand, my grandmother, she was a curandera, and which she was able to do a lot of things. She was able to see a lot of things. And at the time, I was really young, and I wish she would have been alive once I actually learned more or less what all that was about. But the thing is that she was very intuitive, Hispanic descent. She didn't speak any English, and so everything that I learned from her when I was really young, and when I'm talking really young, I mean like 4, 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, was basically a lot of the ways of Hispanic culture and things like La Chusa and all this other stuff. So it started way back when, and her house was really weird because I started seeing a lot of things, shadow figures, things of that nature when my mom and I lived there with her, because my dad was he went to Korea and he went to Vietnam, and he was in the military. So we spent a lot of time away from my dad at the beginning, which gave me a chance to spend a lot of time with my grandparents. But I started noticing a lot of different things, and I would question her about it, and she would look at me like, "You're seeing this stuff?" And she would make it go away. But that was my first, I guess, hop into the paranormal. And what got me so interested in it as I was getting older and I would notice things, I would see things. And it was something that wouldn't go away. And I think a lot of this came from her. My mom never talked about anything she could have saw or felt, so I think it kind of skipped her and I got it. But, all the papers I did in high school, or if I was in, or that I did in college, was all dealing with something, whether it was hauntings, whether it was cryptids, whether it was UFOs or aliens or otherworldly type beings. It all stemmed from those, I guess, confrontations you could say, when I was a young kid. And, it kind of, those stayed with me, and I wanted to know more. And so my curiosity just kind of sprouted from there.
And so when you were a child, okay, so basically you had like ojo dotaro, like you had the gift of the eye.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was really weird because all this stuff was so new to me, at the beginning, and I didn't know what to make of it. And it was kind of like throwing me into a world that I couldn't understand at a very young age. And she never really got to explain a lot of it to me. So a lot of what I had to find out and what I learned actually came from my own research as to, what I was seeing, why I was seeing these things, and that kind of a deal.
I wonder about this, Eddie, and I get you're half Mexican, right? Like you're
Correct.
yeah, you're like me because we talked about and it's really weird because my wife is half like us. I mean, like just like there's like half Mexican, half white, you know. And I've known many people that were like that of mixed descent. My tia Hova would always talk about that, saying that it gives you a view into two worlds, and that you're born into two completely
really
different cultures. Yeah, and so you have to learn to assimilate into both. And sometimes you're not accepted into either, and that was my problem when I was younger too. I learned at an early age about racism on both sides, you know, being called a half-breed. And then, you know,
you learn about that quickly, don't you?
And then you're the gabacho, the huilio, and you have to throw chingazos every day because you have to. I mean, you know, it's just how it goes.
Yeah, well, it was like when I lived in Laredo, you know, and growing up, my uncle used to call me sardina, you know, like sardine, because I was so white and shiny. And so even though I could speak Spanish, you know, the whole thing, I was still looked at as a white boy over there in Laredo, which of course got me into a lot of fights when I was younger, you know. So it was mixing into the different cultures took some it took a lot of work actually, because growing up, you know, and being in a Hispanic culture and looking more white than anything, you know, it got me into a lot of fights. And then if I was in an area where there was a lot of white people, I'd get into fights because they knew I was half Hispanic, and here we go again. So you kind of fall in that middle area where, you know, you're really not accepted no matter where you go.
And we grew up in a different time. It's now, you know, like my adopted son, my brother's son, he's half black, and he doesn't have to face that like we did. I mean, you know, it's just like, oh well, you're just a kid, you know. But when we were younger, and I grew up in a small town, Texas, it was segregated. Like even to this day, you know, you go into certain places like Taylor Cafe is a place there. People kind of just segregate themselves. I mean, it's just I don't like it, but it is what it is. And those people from that generation, the older generation, still do it. I mean, it's just, you know, and when you grow up and you're born I was born in the 70s, you know, in the 80s, it was a big deal to be mixed. It's not, you know, in small town Texas, it's not like it is. People are like, oh, it's no big deal now, because it's not now. But it was then at that time, and I had to deal with a lot of it, and you did too. The point being, though, and what it has to do with what we're talking about is, my tia used to say that it was kind of like, and she was kind of like my surrogate abuelita, my grandmother, but she said that you were given that so that you can learn to walk in two worlds, because you have a foot in the physical and one in the spiritual, and she was very correct about that. I did have the eye, and it's followed me my whole life. Sometimes I think it's more of a curse than a gift, because I don't really agree with it being called a gift. It's like empaths. My wife's a true empath, and she can feel ill if she's around a lot of negativity or people, they can make her feel bad, you know. And so she has issues with that. And there's a friend of mine that I was talking to over this past weekend, and he's like that too. He gets physically stomach ache ill, you know. And I think that there are certain people that are born with it, and I think that there's a higher rate of it. You know, like you said, your grandmother was a curandera. And so you get these episodes where, for me, I would get bouts of like insomnia, anxiety from an early age, and didn't want to be alone, because I never felt like I was truly alone. There was always something there, and you could feel it, you know. And so I don't know exactly if that's the same issues you were having, but we both kind of grew up, you know. You have a show and you talk about these things, and I have a show and I talk about these things. It's not a coincidence to me.
No, you know, it's not. And, you know, and wow, okay. It's being connected over here. It's on my audio. Let me fix that. Okay, so can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So I have a feeling that because of our experiences when we were young, and the fact that we grew up the way we did, I think that adds a lot to our abilities that we have when we deal with the paranormal, whether it's hauntings, whether it's cryptids, whether it's UFOs or alien abductions or whatever the case might be that we're dealing with or we're talking or we're investigating. And it gives us, I think, a better insight when we're dealing with these things, when we talk to people, when we're able to not only understand what they're talking about, but we're able to sense and feel their emotions as well. And not only that, you got to admit, it's better for us as well because we're able to sense BS when we hear it, you know. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you, you know, I've dealt with a lot of cases that turned out to be BS. People faking things, including faking hauntings and things of that nature, which, you know, we actually caught them red-handed, which is another story. But this is all added, like an added bonus when you're interested in the paranormal. And I think it's really helped me along the way, as I'm sure it's helped you along the way when you're you know, digging through all this stuff and you're going down this rabbit hole and you got all these different paths to take when you get into it. And it helps you to find that right path.
Mm-hmm. So, Eddie, how did you get into the Dogman phenomena?
The Dogman phenomena actually came to us by accident. And what I mean by accident is we'd never dealt with anything dealing with Dogmen until one particular day. And this was about, I want to say, a good 6.5 years ago. We dealt mainly hauntings, UFOs, and, you know, dabbled a little bit into the Bigfoot thing as far as cryptids go. One time we ended up started getting messages on Facebook, and they were basically messages to our group, our team, and they were telling us to stay away from a Dogman case, which was in Louisiana. And I'm thinking to myself, what's a Dogman? You know? And I actually had to have one of the people that were writing to me explain to me what a Dogman was. I had never heard that term before. And once I started talking to them, I asked them, I was like, are you talking about like a werewolf? And they were like, yeah, pretty much. And I kind of giggled. And, you know, because my idea of a Dogman was Hollywood. You know, it was Abbott and Costello meet the werewolf. You know, Frankenstein meets the werewolf. You know, these kind of things. You know, American Werewolf in London. You know, all these this good Hollywood stuff. You know, never in my life did I think I would be talking to somebody about a possibility of this creature existing. So I kind of giggled and I said, we're not looking at investigating anything Dogman. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but, you know, we're not doing this, but thanks for, you know, the comment. Well, I ended up getting another message from another lady that was, I guess she was more of a spiritual type reader or somebody of that nature. And she tells me, look, you're going to be investigating this. I just want to warn you away from it and suggest that you don't. And I told her, I was like, look, I already was contacted by somebody. We're not looking into anything dealing with Dogmen or werewolves or anything like that. And she was real insistent that we were. And I told her, I was like, you know, honestly, I don't know what to believe. I said, as far as this goes, but, you know, I don't know what kind of cases you're talking about. And she told me that I would be getting contacted by other people and photographs being sent to me and stories being told to me. And it's going to, the interest was going to be there and we were going to end up investigating these things. And I just kind of, you know, chuckled and said, okay, well, you know, we'll see what happens. Well, the more people that contacted me and started telling me stories, and the more I started reading into this, the more I started thinking, you know, I said, are these things real? You know, is there a possibility that, you know, we are actually going to be investigating these things and the werewolf isn't just some Hollywood actor made up with a lot of hair and fangs? You know, and it really started making me wonder. And the more I started looking into it, the more creeped out I got I was, because I was thinking, I was like, if this thing is real, we're talking about a major apex predator. You know, something that, you know, isn't just a large, you know, bipedal ape, such as a Bigfoot, but something that is a large predator with claws and fangs and the whole works, as they were described to me. And you're talking 300 to 500 pounds or even more. And so I'm thinking to myself, you know, if this is true, we really need to look into it. And I haven't heard of anybody actually looking into this creature. Well, more we started digging into it, we found out that there was a lady, and everybody was really deathly afraid of her. And you got to remember, we were talking to like 30 or 40 different people by this time that were messaging us and emailing us, and our producer and director, you know, he was like, oh my God, this is getting kind of crazy. He actually got a map and started putting up pins where we were getting stories and people were talking to us and where they were from. And I mean, it turned into a full-blown investigation like we would if we were investigating a homicide. And while we were looking into all this, there was that lady that people were really afraid of, and they called her the gatekeeper. And they said that she was able to control your mind. She was able to read into your life, read into who you are, get into your mind, and she was actually causing people to commit suicide. Well, we had some articles that were sent to us on people that committed suicide. I mean, and they could have been anybody or anything. So we had to take what we were getting with a grain of salt, because we had no proof any of this was actually taking place. But needless to say, I mean, it was adding, you know, evidence, as even though it was very, you know, circumstantial at best, you know, to our plate and what we were looking at. And I finally tracked this lady down. And I spoke to her. I called her on the phone. I sent her from Messenger. I sent a phone call to her, and she answered. And I told her who I was, and I told her what I had been told. And I wanted to know the truth, and if she knew anything about what people were saying about her, what was going on, and she got very quiet. And she was kind of eerily quiet. But she came back and she said, you know, I've heard some of these things. I don't know what to tell you. I can't tell you if all this is true. I can't tell you if it's not true. But I can tell you that I have woken up in places away from my home, and she lived way out in the middle of nowhere, pretty much in a swampy area. But she said she would wake up and she'd be covered in blood, and she had no idea why, and she didn't have any clothes on. And it went from that to her telling me some stories on how she woke up, where she woke up, and things of that nature, which kind of made my skin crawl a little bit. And I was like, you know, if this is fake, I have to think, I was sitting there thinking, you know, thought to self at the time, if this is fake, people are going through a lot of trouble. I mean, creating a ton of trouble to make this story real and believable. From all the people that we've talked to, all the people that have told us stories about this situation, to the stories about her. And supposedly she was the white wolf. She's the only one I've ever heard that was the white wolf. And she was supposed to be a hybrid between alien DNA and lycanthrope DNA and human DNA. But she supposedly had the ability to read minds. So I thought, well, I had her on the phone. Why don't I check out her ability? Right? So I was like, this will get it. This will clear it up real quick. So I told her, I asked her, I said, can you read minds? Are you able to dive into somebody's psyche and tell them things about themselves, or, you know, tell them stuff that only they would know about? She says, well, she goes, I've been told that I have that ability. But she goes, I don't know. And I was like, really? Because a lot of people, like I said, they were afraid of her, that she's killed like this before, right? So I thought, okay, I'll play. I said, all right. I said, I'll tell you what. I was like, if you don't mind, I said, I'd like to kind of test that theory. I said, can you tell me some things about me that nobody would know? I said, for instance, can you tell me what the area looks like that I live at? And she got quiet. Right after that, she came back and she said, your house looks like this. You live in this area. You're standing right now in a room with these kind of pictures on the wall. And she was literally naming and describing the pictures on the wall of my mom, my dad, and me. She was describing the furniture. She described the wall color. And I'm thinking to myself, you've got to be kidding. I literally turned around and I'm looking up on the wall for a camera. I mean, that's how accurate she was. And I thought, there's no way. And of course, she talked to me about my daughter. And I thought, well, my daughter, I've had her on, on social media before with me, so that's not uncommon. And she told me, she says, she said, I think you'd be better off investigating your UFOs and your hauntings than diving into this. And I said, why is that? She goes, because this could be dangerous. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, my skin's crawling right now, right? I've got like goosebumps. I'm thinking to myself, how in the world could this lady know everything? She told me about my ex-wives, and things of that nature. And I'm like, wow. She goes, you're a really good guy. I can see from what I'm picking up on. She goes, and I really don't want you to get hurt in any way. And I thought, well, shit, screw that. Now I really want to look into this because nobody's that accurate. I mean, nobody can tell me things that, I've never put out there in social media. And, she was even telling me about, my ex and how she cheated and this and that, not my daughter's mom, but another one. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I was like, this is crazy. And so, I mean, that really perked up my interest. Well, her and I kind of became, I guess friends in a way, kind of, sort of.
Allies.
Yeah, and it wasn't long after that I became known as the guardian of the gatekeeper. Like I was now protecting that sect of werewolves, supposedly. And I had people calling me and asking me questions and scared to death and telling me to have her back off of them, that she was digging into their head and they were freaking out. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what you people are smoking, but I mean, this is getting like really crazy here. And this went on for a while. And I ended up talking to so many people. Other paranormal investigators got a hold of me that had gone down the same rabbit hole I was in. And they were telling me, I need to get away. I need to back off. I need to back off. Well, then one night I get an instant messenger text from a lady that, well, I say it's a lady. I have no earthly clue. I mean, it could have been anybody or anything, that told me that I needed to back away from this case, that we needed to stop investigating Dogman altogether, especially this one, and to stay away from her in particular, that they were being looked at and watched. And I wrote back, I was like, yeah, whatever, I've been told this kind of stuff before. Well, supposedly this person that I was talking to was some sort of government agent, supposedly. Like I said, I don't know to this day, but she knew things. And I'm saying she because that's what her picture was. I don't know if that's what it was or not. Supposedly, she knew things about me that I don't think anybody would have known. She knew my clearance in the military. She knew my clearance in the police department. She knew my rank. She knew all that stuff. She knew what I was doing. So apparently it was somebody who was able to get their hands on this type of information. And I was like, whatever, I'm checking this out. This is too weird for me. I've got to keep looking. And I'm sorry if you don't want me to, but, it's like too bad. So it wasn't long before we started getting followed. And when I say we, I'm talking not only myself, but our producer and some of our other teammates were being followed. We had black SUVs around us. We had black SUVs outside of our house, all this kind of stuff. I approached one time with an AR, and I was going to get some answers, and they saw me and they split. I didn't get to them in time. But it was like that for a while. Well, then they backed off a little bit, and every once in a while they would let themselves be known that they were still around. And, just little comments here and there. And then it took a turn into something else from not only Dogman, but now we're talking people contacting us about inner Earth. And it was all related toward the Dogman, and it was related toward Sasquatch. And then we had inner Earth type stuff, which was relating toward reptilians. And I mean, we went down a rabbit hole that I can't even begin to explain, that had our heads spinning. I mean, I never in a million years, I felt like I was living a sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
And
somebody's saying, asking who the guest is. The guest is Eddie Hill from Paranormal Analytical. He's a law enforcement officer. Go ahead, Eddie. Keep on. Sorry.
Yeah, so, like I said, it was like I was living in this sci-fi rabbit hole of a movie that there was no getting out of. And this went on for probably pretty close to about a year. And all of a sudden, everything stopped. I was not contacted by anybody for a long, long time. And then out of the blue, during one of our shows, I see our government agent. She showed up in the chat, and asked how things were going and, that kind of a thing. And I said, hey, how you doing? It's been a long time. How are you? And, it was a little quick conversation, just kind of like a little heads up that, I'm still around type thing, and I kind of figured that's what it all was. But it was kind of, and like I said, I never talked to this person, on the phone or otherwise, other than in text, in chat. And so I don't know who this person was, or if it was a guy, or if it was a girl, or I don't know that much about this person. But they went in some other details and did some other things that I'm not going to go over here on the air, but it was stuff that would really lead you to believe that they had some kind of control or some kind of hold or some kind of ability in order to watch, listen, and learn without you knowing they were there. To just put it like that. And it was really interesting. But some of our teammates, they were kind of freaked out and they got kind of scared and they backed away right away. I never did. I kind of felt like I had kind of like a relationship with a lot of these people and a lot of the ones that I was talking to. So it didn't scare me as much as it just intrigued me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I've told this story a couple of times with some other people that I've talked to, and they say they've never heard anything like this dealing with a Dogman type scenario. But I don't know. It's kind of one of those things that makes you want to know more, only you don't know where to start because there's so many directions that this thing took off in.
Mm-hmm. When you were talking about the inner Earth, here's something that's interesting. I talk about this all the time. I was actually talking about it last night on another show. I don't remember what we talked about exactly when I was on your show. I just remember I think I told my encounter about what happened to me.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and so I had a friend. His name's Nick. He came on the show once. Well, I've had a couple. I know a lot of Nicks, but there was one in particular. He's a very big dude. He's a big, tough guy. He used to work with me downtown, and he works for a very large, massively large firm. And everybody's heard of this company, but he's so I don't want to say who they are. I don't want to, he came on my live stream one day several months ago. I think it was early spring, late winter, something like that. And he talked about seeing this guy who was one of the big executives who'd come down from Europe, and he was standing in the elevator with this guy. This guy was big. He was tall. Mm-hmm. And he said that they had like this mirrored elevator, and he could see this guy's face changing while he goes, I just looked down and pretended like I was looking at my phone, and that I didn't just see what I saw. And he said that it was very reptilian looking. Now, I did some research on that. Now, I followed up. There was a friend of mine he's the head of security at that particular campus. And here in Austin, I think they have 2 or 3 different campuses for that particular company. They're very large. It's a global place. And I don't want to say, because I'm a little guy, I don't want to get crushed here. But this particular guard let us go onto their campus and walk around. It's about 25, 30 acres of just open field next to it. But and then there's like a bunch of trees. And then there's another open field, and it was at the beginning of the pandemic. They had a couple of different people who they were staggering the shifts, so people would be separated for the COVID, whatever. And they had a couple different women who had claimed to have seen werewolves in the woods right there, like walk up out of there on 2 legs, like literally. And then they had a couple of the guards who worked for this guy tell me that they saw. And this is the same company, and my friend happened to see this thing in the elevator that looked like a reptilian looking whatever. And so we were actually walking around on this property and searching. Okay, the common denominator was all this happened when these executives had come down. Yeah, and then 2 years before that, there was a guard that I got in touch with, who almost ran one of these things over when he was pulling out onto the I don't want to say the name of the street because people will figure out where it's at, but he was pulling out, and this giant wolf-like thing it appeared to be kind of hunched over, then it got down on all fours and ran out in front of his vehicle. And it was 2 years before that, and that when I went back and I followed up with that individual, I found out that this is another time when they had visited. Yeah. And there was another person who claimed to have seen one of these executives get angry and his face turn like reptilian looking. The connection, I don't know. I mean, I'm starting to lean towards some really, probably outside the box theories about some of these things that these people can change, or they can, some of them I think. I had a guy recently, not too long ago, who told me, you know what, some of them are vampires, some of them are reptilians, some of them are werewolves. They can shapeshift, they can do this, they can do that. And that there is a connection, to all this. And of course, a lot of these sightings take place near cave systems. You being in San Antonio, me being in Austin, that there's a giant cave system. Look at what is it called? Interspace Caverns. What is it? Right there. Right. There's a lot of limestone and a lot of caves. And then when you look at the LBL, we're having the big Dogman conference in August at the Land Between the Lakes. Me and Ken are putting on the conference. A lot of people go missing in that area. And of course, it's the LBL. When I was talking to one of the guys from the hotel that's putting on the conference, that's dealing with the conference, he absolutely believes in the beast of the LBL. It's like a real thing to them. The people that are there in Paris, Tennessee, they actually believe in this thing. It's a real thing. And he claims to have seen, multiple UFOs in that area. So, when you mention the alien DNA, I think it's all relative. Me and the guys from Texas Back Porch were talking last night, and Natural Bridge Caverns, there you go, there's another one. It's I think it's all relative, and I think that there is something that bleeds over into our world. Now, there's another company, a very large company that deals with computers and things, and were closer to where I currently stay. And this guy, he was from India, and he was actually really cool. He was a young guy that lived by us, and he struck up a conversation with me one day. because we ran into each other at the gym, and he goes, "Did I just see you at the gym?" Yeah, we started talking, and we made friends. And he had a buddy, and they both worked at that company. They were programmers. And when they found out that I was doing a show, they started telling me some weird stuff. When they had these big executives that came down from Asia, and they came down from India, and they were working for this company, and then there were a couple from East Asia, and they were there like in a little contingency, little group. And the security, which they got me in touch with, saw this white, freaky looking, werewolf looking thing come out of the woods. And one of the people that worked there, and I think I've talked about this on my show before, saw this hooded figure walking through the hallways that looked like a lizard. I mean, you know, it's when you start to put the pieces together, you're going like, haven't I heard this before, you know? And this is a completely different place with a completely different campus, but the same sort of industry, you know, and you're kind of going like, this is weird. You know, I mean, it is really weird. And I've covered lots of really strange cases, you know, and what it all means, I don't know. I did a show called The Serbian Werewolf. Me and my brother had actually were Skyping with these people. They were from Serbia, and they had a castle, is what it was, and it had changed hands many times during the Civil Wars, and they had uncovered a sarcophagus. Let me tell you something, the museum, the government, everybody was just right there real quick, ready to take away everything they found. And then told them, we're going to pay you. And then they finally got paid, but it took them years, and they never got anything back from what was uncovered. And so, this haunting sort of started. And I guess I could call it a haunting, but it was like this wolf-like creature that kept appearing, and it was like grabbing one of their workers and trying to pull it through a green hole. It's freaky, dude. I mean, it's really freaky. And then they found this spiral hole. Go ahead. Go ahead, Eddie.
No, go ahead.
Well, they had found like this spiral hole near the barracks, which had been, you know, like changed hands multiple times, and they had used it kind of as a makeshift house while they were renovating the castle type house, whatever it was. Really, it was just used as a garrison, you know, kind of like a place that as a fortification against, you know, people coming and going. What is the word I'm looking for? Like a bulwark, you know. But they found like this spiral, like it was like a spiral staircase. It was made out of like stone, and then it just kind of went down into this like abyss. I mean, that's the inner earth. So they covered it up, you know, walled it off, capped it, whatever. You know, and you get these stories of these creatures coming out of these holes. Like the other day, I had Brian Bowden on, and he's a researcher up there in New York, and he was talking about, and he brought up a case that I had covered that he, of course, had heard too, about them coming up out of these wells. You know, these creatures, I'm telling you, they're always coming up out of the ground. You know, you hear about that a lot. Like, you know, it just is not surprising to me, you know, when you hear these stories. And then when you hear about these really wealthy, elite type people, you know, they're in the same vicinity as these creatures, you know, and then you're kind of going like, okay. So what you were saying to the average, you know, uninitiated person, they're going to be like, what the heck are you talking about? But,
real
you know,
quick, let me interject here real quick, because there's a couple of things you mentioned just now that have sparked my interest and actually reminded me of a few different things that I was told. You were talking about these wealthy people, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, these big shots. Some of the ones involved with this reptilian thing and these dogmen or werewolves or whatever they are that these people were contacting me about, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to tell you who they said they were. Y'all ever heard of the Rockefellers?
Mm-hmm. It's one of the six major families that, they own the world.
Yeah.
There's six families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Oppenheimer,
Mm-hmm. They were brought up in our conversations. Okay? And not so much being a werewolf, but being some of the ones hunting them down and trying to capture them. Then let me jump in here a little bit also when we're talking about some of these holes and these lights or dimensions or portals or doorways that these things come out of. Some of these things were seen coming out of Skinwalker Ranch through these amber-looking portals that were only seen using infrared cameras. This one creature came out of one of those portals, or whatever you want to call it, while security was watching through infrared at one point in time. There's a lot of this stuff, a lot of military involvement, a lot of this genetic mutations, for lack of better terminology, that's taking place concerning not only human modifications, but human alien lycanthrope type modifications that were part of these conversations over this year that I was talking to these people, and I mean, it was really fascinating. And I was really sad that all of a sudden everything just stopped. I don't know how or why, but everything stopped. It was like overnight. We would be getting calls at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning at times. Luckily, I was working night shift at the time, but it was really an experience listening to some of these people and listening to the stories and listening to the fear in their voices. You can tell if somebody's truly afraid. And I'm telling you, talking to some of these people, they were truly afraid. They were very scared. They were worried not only for their own safety, but some of them were even worried for our safety. It was an insane type experience dealing with this whole case. I mean, it was it really made me start to think that, wow, this stuff might be believable. And one of the things I always preach when it comes to the paranormal is to keep an open mind. No matter what you hear, no matter what's being told to you, try and keep an open mind, because without an open mind, it's even harder to try and piece together some of these puzzles that's thrown your way. And by keeping an open mind, and let me tell you, I always thought I had a really open mind, but this kind of pushed me to the limit of trying to keep my mind open, because of the amount of stories and how deep that rabbit hole went. And then when it went to the inner earth thing and reptilians, I was like, okay, now we're starting to get into an area that I'm a little bit more familiar with, dealing, of course, with UFOs and abductions and stuff. But when you're mixing the two with werewolves, it really made it hard to choke down. Now, I'm going to tell you another little story real quick that happened to me during an investigation. And it really wasn't an investigation. It was more of a training session that we were doing with a couple of people way back when. And this was early on when we first started doing this more professionally. We had gone to a cemetery where we were able to collect EVPs pretty regularly. And a lot of the times we would collect the same individuals, I guess you could say, that were giving us these EVPs, and they would communicate more and more and more and more. Well, one night we showed up, and there was an area that we would hear, and at times you could hear like a woman scream. It could have been probably one of those screech owls, but a lot of people said he could hear a woman scream. So I had these two brand new investigators. They were husband and wife, and they were basically wanting to learn how to collect EVPs. So we were saying, okay, well, we'll take you and we'll show you. Not a big deal. We got a great place, and a lot of times, to get people who are a little bit skeptic to understand EVPs a little bit more is to have them catch their own. That way they're there, they know what was being said, they know what wasn't being said, and then they can listen to their recordings, and they'll, if they capture something, they're like, well, I didn't hear that when I was there. So we took them here. And I'm not going to say the name of the cemetery because I don't want it getting flooded, but it was overgrown, it was overrun. It was a poplar cemetery. There was graves there from children. There was graves there from God only knows how far back it went. And there was graves that were disturbed and headstones knocked down. I mean, it It was a real mess. I mean, that place was really bad at the time. But I was explaining to him about the lady screaming, and we heard a scream. And I was like, holy shit, there it is. Let's go that way, you know? So we took off that direction. And when we got to that area, which didn't take us too long to get to, all of a sudden the scream came from across the cemetery, way away from where we were at. And I thought, there's no way anything could move away that quickly. Well, anyway, I don't think they were planning on getting the platinum treatment on the EVP collection. So they were like, okay, we've had enough. This is freaking us out. We need to leave. So there was a path that was cut. That was probably the width of a car. And I think it was cut like that on purpose. That went through the cemetery. The rest of the grass was probably 4 or 5 feet high. And the graves were kind of like, you know, in there somewhere. You know, you'd never see it till you walk up on one. But we started walking back through that path. And it was a full moon that night, I remember, and there was like 5 of us. And as we were walking through, I heard something coming through the woods. I mean, coming through the grass. And I told everybody to stop. And I'm looking, and I could see that light brown sawgrass kind of moving as this thing was headed our direction. I was like, whoa, stop. Something's coming. So we're looking, and we're real still, and I shut off all the lights. And in the moonlight, as the grass was moving, stepping out into that low-cut grass was this big dog-looking creature. And we hit our flashlights on it, and it was a wolf. A big, big wolf. Now, Bexar County in Texas does not have wolves running loose anywhere.
Mm.
And so and it definitely wasn't a coyote. You know, I've seen my share of coyotes. It definitely wasn't a coyote. So this was, I mean, you're talking something that probably weighed good 160 pounds, maybe a little bit more. And, you know, like an overgrown German Shepherd, like a big Malamute of sorts. And I'm looking at this thing going, holy crap, that's a wolf. And we all have our flashlights on it. So I'm thinking, okay, this thing had to escape from somebody. And it's over here. So it's probably domesticated. And it never looked at us. Even though we had flashlights on it, it never turned and looked at us. And we were probably maybe 30, 40 feet from it. So I start whistling to it and calling it, trying to get it to come up to me. And I start easing my way forward so I didn't startle it. Well, it never looked at me, even though I was whistling and calling it and trying to make it turn and look at me, trying to get its attention. It never, ever looked at me. It just was stopped in the center of the path, and then it took about 3 or 4 more steps and disappeared into the tall sawgrass on the other side. And I was like, damn, that was really cool. So where it went in, as we got to that area, I turned and went into the sawgrass looking for this thing. Didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. I was like, well, it's gone. But that was a cool experience, right? So everybody's like, wow, that was really neat. You know, I never thought we'd see a wolf. So we keep walking down the path. And as I'm walking, I'm sitting there just la, 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 and swinging my arms, and I'm looking for the gravel road that we need to turn on. And all of a sudden I felt something on my hand furry, and I looked down, and this wolf is like right next to me, and it's bumping up against my left leg. And I'm like, holy shit, it's right here. And everybody stopped and they looked. They're like, oh my God. And it was just walking right next to me. And I ran my hand from its head, down its neck, across its shoulders, across its haunches, down its tail, and it kept going in front. And it wasn't walking at a very fast pace, but it was walking a little bit faster than what we were. So we kept walking, and it got a little bit ways in front of us, probably 20 feet. And we came upon that gravel road that I was waiting to get on so that we could take a left and head toward our vehicles. When it got to the gravel road, it stopped, and it turned broadside to us, facing the opposite direction from our cars. And while it was standing there, we stopped, and we had our flashlights on it, and we had our recorders going, but none of us had a freaking camera. I mean, go figure, right? I mean, the shit happens like that all the time. So, but we were recording ourselves while we were looking at this thing, and all you could hear is oohs and ahs, and wow, that's cool. And I'm telling you, I wouldn't have believed what I saw next if it wasn't for the fact that I had so many people there that saw the same damn thing. This sucker never looked at us, never turned toward us, but dissolved into that snow, like what you normally see, like if you're on a TV, like an old TV, you know, that you don't have a signal. You know how you got that snow on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
And there's, no signals coming through like on antennas. It turned into something similar to that and just kind of like dissipated and was gone. And I mean, all of us freaked and we were like, did you just see that? I mean, and I told everybody, don't say a word, not till we get back to the car. Don't say anything. I want to talk to each of you separately, and I want you all to tell me what you saw. And sure as heck, we got to the car, and I separated everybody, and everybody came to me one at a time. Everybody saw the same thing. I mean, this was, I like I said, to this day, if it wasn't for the fact that I have other people that still validate it, I would not have believed it. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen, but it gets a little bit better. The following day, I'm at my house, and I'm in the front yard, and this is broad daylight. And I'm at the front of the house, and I'm sitting there pulling weeds out of the front and cleaning up the yard, and my dad pulled up. And he gets out of the truck, and he walks over. He goes, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm just cleaning up over here. And he goes, I'll be damned, look at that. And I looked up. That wolf was running across my front yard and ran toward my garage that was open. And I was like, oh, crap. And I jumped up and I ran to the garage, wasn't there, ran around the side of the house, wasn't there, ran up and down the street, looking around, couldn't find it, nothing. And I told my dad the story, and my dad just looked at me like I was crazy. And I told him, I was like, I said, I would have never expected that. So I called Christine, and she was our psychic that we used on the team at the time. And I was like, you're never going to believe what I'm going to tell you. And she told me flat out, she says, you saw your wolf. I was like, why do you say it's my wolf? Why do you say I saw my wolf? She goes, because when it came around at the cemetery last night, she goes, it had a strict bond that was with you. And it was your guardian. And she goes, and I, under the opinion that it was leading us out of there because there was something bad and we weren't supposed to be there at the time. And I was like, that is crazy. She says, but there's more. She goes, I'm sensing that the wolf is sent out as a protector for you, but you also have an Indian girl that sends the wolf to you. That is your main guardian.
What do you believe?
The wolf, I've been told that before, and I got told that once before on a call. I was going to a fight in progress, and I pulled up at the mall. This was where the fight was going on. I got out of the patrol car, and as I got out, closed the door, this old lady stopped me, and I was like, I got to go, ma'am. She goes, no. She goes, follow the wolf. And I was like, what? She goes, just follow the wolf. And that stuck in my head after that. And I thought, I don't know what she's talking about, but I didn't remember about that incident until this wolf incident happened at the cemetery. So I don't know. There's a possibility. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I try and keep an open mind. So is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. I'd like to believe that it's true, but I don't know. I mean, your guess would be as good as mine.
That's interesting. That's crazy. I've heard stories, and I had a weird incident happen to me when I was like, I think 16, where, and like I've said before, I've only seen this Dogman one time. I had that encounter, but I've sensed its presence on different occasions, and I've said that, I didn't see it, but I believed it to be around or there. And one time I was walking, and I was actually with my stepmom's dog, who I got along really well with. I never got along with her, but I got along with her dog. She had a Boston Terrier. And we were out I was riding my bike out in the country. And this isn't nearly as amazing as your story or whatever, but something similar. But like I had a flat tire, and so I started walking my bike, and it was summertime, like in July, and it was getting dark, and I just remember hearing like this weird, ungodly howl, which I believe now was a Dogman, because I've heard clips of it so many times, and I've heard them, and I know what they sound like. And so I heard this sound coming out of the woods, and I got panicky, and I got scared. I turned around, and stepmom's dog is gone. Like, it just took off running across the pasture and was gone. And I was still getting acquainted with where we were living, way out in the middle of the country, near Lexington, Texas. And I was not 100% sure which direction I should go. And to this day, I don't know if it was a neighbor's dog or what, but it was a German Shepherd. It wasn't a wolf or anything like that. It was just a black dog, and it came out of the woods, and it came up to me, and it was on the other side of a barbed wire fence, and then it just took off across this field, and I just had this instinct that I should follow it. So I just literally threw my bike down in the ditch. And I crawled under the barbed wire fence, and I tromped across a pasture, which, in Texas, is, with tall grass, probably not the smartest thing to do, because you could get bit by a rattler real easy.
Quickly.
Yeah, but nothing happened, and I just felt like, and this dog kept stopping and turning and looking back and kept going, and so I followed it, and I ended up cutting across 2 or 3 pastures, and I got onto the gravel road, and I said, oh, I know where I'm at. And I recognized the road, and I walked, about 2 or 3 miles, and I got to my dad, my stepmom's place. It was about 4 or 5 acre piece of property. And I never saw that dog again, although I did describe it to the neighbor. We had a neighbor who lived in another plot, like about a quarter mile down the road. And he said, oh, I know that dog. And I guess it was somebody's dog, but they had moved or whatever, and they had left it or something. So it was kind of just running around wild. But the fact that the dog came out and kind of like led me, I always thought that was kind of supernatural. I don't know. And I just remember hearing that howling noise and had seen the creature about a year before that, the October before that, I should say. Mm-hmm. And didn't hear it, though. Didn't know what it sounded like. And that was the first time that I'd ever heard it. And then years later, I was with my wife out near Copeland. I don't know if anybody knows where that's at. And there's an area out there where they say you can go, and there's this holler out there, and you can hear them, like, making that ungodly sound that they make. And I had a friend one time, he was out there, and he was working as a plumber out there, and he was like, oh, I heard a Sasquatch, I heard a Bigfoot, and he had a really bad recording of it on his phone, and I'm like, that's not what that is. And when I tried to explain to him what that was, he didn't really know what it was, and I said, dude, it's just werewolf-type creatures, because he was from Bastrop, and you know where Bastrop's at, yeah. Right. And so I told him, and he was like, no, that's a Bigfoot, man. I've heard that. I said, that is not what that is. And I played a couple different recordings of Bigfoot, and he was like, oh man. And I explained to him what this creature was, and he was like, oh, okay. And I said, yeah. I mean, I don't want to run into either one of them, honestly. I've had people have some really terrifying Bigfoot encounters, just like Dogman. I mean, it's the same thing, but it's just 2 different things. And when I was with my wife and we were out there, and we literally, back then I was still good friends with Vic Cundiff, and I called him and I said, listen to this. And I played it. And he was like, that's Dogman. That has to be, because you could hear it, it's echoing back and forth. You could hear it. And there was this dog that had come up to our vehicle. My wife can attest to this. It was weird. It was like it came up kind of growling and acting kind of aggressive. And when that growling, howling, whatever it was, the way that they make that noise, that dog turned and ran. It just took off. And my wife was in shock of how fast this highly aggressive dog had come out, from these people's property, and then just turned and ran. And was just cowering on the front porch. And I don't think the people were there. I think they were gone or whatever. But you could hear it. It was a distance away, probably a good half mile away, down in this holler. But it was clear. You could hear it clearly. And my wife was like, wow. And you could hear them. I mean, that's a place where you can go and sometimes actually hear and get vocalizations. To get it recorded good, though, because I was trying to record it and I was trying to send it to Vic. But you would have to get a lot closer than I was, and I was not willing to do that, because I was like, I know where that's at. I know what, because my friend used to live on the other side of that on 40 acres, and I was like, there is no way that his granny used to always say that, don't go down into that holler, don't go down that creek, them haints are down there,
God, I would have a real hard time stopping myself if I was living anywhere close to that.
Not me.
And had the ability, dude. I don't know if I'd be able to stop myself from going.
Yeah,
honestly.
a lot of people are like that too, Eddie. Like you're one of them. Like there's a lot of researchers, like Ken and Lyle. Like they'll go out and go hiking around and tromping around by themselves on these backwoods trails looking for these creatures and looking for Bigfoot and whatever. And more power to them. I mean, I was talking to my friend Nick Valente the other day. He's a former. He's like you, and he does all that, and I said that's good, that's great, but I'm not going to because I've already had my run-in with it.
Let me tell you, I think, and this is one time that kind of freaked me out pretty good. I had a 34-foot travel trailer, and I was staying over there in Bracketville in a place called Fort Clark Springs. And this place is an old Army base back from the cavalry days. And one night I was staying out there, and it was quiet, and I had the AC on over there on the travel trailer, and at the generator running and so forth and so on, and everything was good. And I had to disconnect it from my truck, and I'm sitting over there and watching some TV, I had some good CDs I was playing. And all of a sudden I stood up and I went to the kitchen, and something hit the side of that travel trailer so hard that it almost knocked me to where I almost lost my balance and fell down. And I was like, what the hell? And I grabbed my pistol and I ran outside real quick, and I'm looking, and it's quiet. I don't see anything. And then I see this pack of dogs running, and they were big, full-grown dogs. I mean, probably 60 pounds and up. But there was a big pack of them, probably, I want to say 8 or 10 of them. And they were running through that area I was at, all in a big, huge, just a big group just going in a pack. But something hit the side of that trailer, and it wasn't a dog, because how a travel trailer is, and something hit the side of that trailer so hard it rocked it and almost knocked me down. But when I went outside, there was no marks on it, and there was no footprints anywhere in the dirt around it. I have no idea what the heck hit or what happened, but something hit hard enough that it rocked a 34-foot travel trailer.
Yeah, that's well. So Eddie, we're gonna do me and Eddie are gonna get together, and we're gonna go into more detail, more depth, and we're gonna talk a lot more about a lot of stuff, and we're gonna record together. Eventually, we're gonna have to make that happen. But I got to let you go for now, and I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, man.
And talking.
We are going to have to get together and go out and do some investigations as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as it's not, out in the middle of nowhere, that's fine, because I want to be able to get back to the road and get out of there. And then, I can be the one that tells the story. Yeah, it was terrifying. Unfortunately, Eddie is, but I'm here.
Well, I'll do a call in from where we end up.
Yeah, well, you can, because you're law enforcement, so you can, yeah. So, but Eddie, it was good having you on. Definitely. Thanks for coming on and telling that story. That was great. And I mean, it's scary. I mean, but it was an exhilarating, things that happened. It's crazy. So yeah, it was good talking to you.
Absolutely. Like I said, I enjoy talking and telling the story. I think people need to be very aware of their surroundings when they're out and about. Like I said, keep an open mind. Don't shut out what you hear. And if you get a chance, share it, with Josh or myself or anybody that you know is into this kind of stuff, because all the information that you can get on these things really help on investigations. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate it. Thank you for the invite. Thank you so very much. And we're going to have to get back together again. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And any chance you could make it out to the conference in August?
I am going to give it my best. So far, it looks like I'll be able to. So you guys may see me there as well.
Well, if you show up, we'll put you on the panel, and you can ask Eddie questions.
Absolutely. Be happy to.
Yeah. All right, Eddie, I'll see you.
All right, my brother. You be safe. Everybody take care, and thank you once again. Adios.
All right. Bye. So that was my friend Eddie Hill who is a law enforcement officer, 30 years, works out of San Antonio. Yeah, I don't know that what happened to me that day as a young man was supernatural. I don't know if I've even talked about that on the show. I may have said it on somebody's show. I've been on so many different shows and done, I don't know. But yeah, that it was a weird thing. And what happened to Eddie was a weird thing. And you got a guy he's been a police officer. He's a deputy sheriff. He's been doing it for a long, long time. And, he's got no reason to make up fables, and I've talked to him on multiple occasions. I've been on his show, and we were introduced by a mutual friend of ours, Ken Gerhard. It says here, Corley Cantor. Now, folks, if you donate money, your comment gets highlighted. I don't know if I've even ever said that. I think Anthony might have said that before, but it's a super chat, and so your comment is always read because it's highlighted. So that's the other advantage. Like if you're trying to get your voice heard, that's one way to do it, is by just making a donation, and then whatever you say shows up on there. So you get to help the show and you get your voice out there. But anyway, Corley Cantor says, "Have you heard of the Bill Ramsey werewolf story? It was investigated by Lorraine Warren." Yes, I have. If that's the one, it was a spiritual entity. I'm going to tell you right now, I get so many different stories. We got into it last night with the Texas back front porch, with Tex and Jason. We went down the rabbit hole about flesh and blood, not flesh and blood. Is it something that could have been created by the Anunnaki? I mean, you can go down that rabbit hole a long ways, and I have gone deep into deep waters with a lot of different researchers, different podcasters, different authors, different listeners who've sent me their stories, and I've spent hours going over these things. And I'm going to say something. I know a lot more than I feel comfortable talking about. Let's put it that way. I feel like I know quite a bit, and I say as much as I can. Let's put it that way. And now there are other podcasters out there. There's a few of them that come to mind that do know a lot more than what they let on, because I don't think that they are comfortable, just like I'm not. And a couple of them, I'm gonna be wrong, honest, I'm not very fond of them. Okay, but this isn't about my likes or dislikes or my personal taste or whatever. But I get where they're coming from, because they really, But one of them in particular knows a whole lot. Okay, you can probably figure out what I'm talking about, and just doesn't do, because he doesn't want to mess up his channel, his money making venture, when he could give you a bunch of answers if he just really wanted to, but he doesn't care. Now, I did initially agree and understand why, but at this point, it's like it just boils down to not wanting to get demonetized, and it's about money, which I understand that if that's your main source of income, I can't really fault the guy. And in all things I do, I try to be fair. Like I was watching, there's a show me and my wife are watching. It's not paranormal. It's called 60 Days In. And what these people do is they go to jail for 60 days. And they're not like I don't want to call them snitches, because they're not really snitches, but what they do, because most of the stuff that they talk about, they don't really point out individuals and tattletelling individuals. They give the people who are in charge of the corrections information about what's happening as a whole, typically, and they give information, from what I've seen on the show, they give information about people who are abusive, just in particular towards the inmates, which is just a horrible abuse going on. I think. I mean, they're already in jail. They're already suffering. Why debase them and make their lives worse? I don't agree with a lot of So that's kind of what the gist of the show is. We're starting season 4. Me and my wife we got into it, and I actually would sit down and watch the show because a lot of times I fall asleep and I don't have time. But this one kept my attention. And what the point is that I'm very fair. Like, there was a woman in there that her cover was about to be blown, and these inmates aren't going to understand. Look, I'm not here to tattle on you. I'm just in here to take care of, to try to help y'all get a better deal. She's not going to be able to, So they told her to take some stuff, and she did. She was like, okay, whatever. And then that gained their trust, and they didn't think of her, as the enemy. And Holly says they're snitches. They're not telling on individuals, so I don't really look at that as the same as snitching. I mean, you're not dropping a dime on one particular individual. But they're kind of, from what I've seen, more telling on the system than the inmates, because they're learning what it's like to be an inmate, so they kind of sympathize with the inmates. But anyway, when it came down to it, she did that, and everybody was judging her, and saying it was a YouTube. They had the seasons on it, and I was like, I understand why she did it. And so I understand, like, from different perspectives, I always give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I always try to say, look, I'm going to look at it from this person's perspective. And sometimes it drives my wife crazy because she's like, I don't like that person, this and that. But I'm always trying to be like, let me give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, they did this, but they also did this. Let's look at both sides. And I do that with everybody. And I'm being honest. I try to be very straight and fair with people. So if I'm telling you that this person is this and that, I've looked at it from every angle. And so I do, even though I don't like some of these people, I do understand where they're coming from and their apprehension on actually going out and talking about everything that they know, because you don't know what could happen if we all just decided we're going to just start saying stuff. You only have so many platforms that you can really reach people on, and if they decide to cut you off, well, that's it. Facebook is just, oh my gosh, dude, it is so bad. I mean, they are bad. It is bad. I mean, I saw somebody get a ban the other day, and he showed me what it was, and it was like, he was talking about his dinner. I mean, like, they're just targeting people. They make up their mind that if you're, I guess your politics or whatever it is their main thing. If it doesn't jibe with theirs, then they just give these little tecuaches, as we say in Spanish, they give them carte blanche to just tee off on you. Oh, you like chicken fried steak in the morning with eggs? You got a ban, 30 days, boom. That will teach you to mess around, fool. Keep it up. What happens next? It's on you. I don't know if that's how they talk. I assume that's who's talking. I don't know. Next time you'll get bigger ban, But you have this, like, okay, my group, and I've been griping about it for a while. 390 something people now that we've accepted in the last month, and we're still at 7.8. The needle has not moved. Imagine if you're filling up a gas tank and it's just like and you just sat there for a week and it's like there's no gas going into your vehicle. But that's BS. Gas tank is overflowing. For my estimate, we're probably at about 8.2 now, but it's showing 7.8. And I'm going like, you sacks of horse crap. Okay. Anyways, Grace W says, I can't wait for the conference. I hope I get to meet everyone from the chat and the PRT team. Well, you'll get to meet everyone from the PRT team, but not from the chat, unfortunately, because a lot of these people aren't going to go to the conference. But the Curtis Turner, my other Turner here, says, the conference will be a success because after all the info discussed, there will still be a lot of meat left on the bone. Looking forward to it. Yes, absolutely. There's going to be a panel, too, and you can ask questions. If you can make it somehow, some way, get there, because I want to meet as many people from as many walks of life, from as many different aspects of life as I possibly can, so that we can share information, we can talk in person, and we can tell stories, talk about all these different aspects of this phenomenon, and we can come at it from every angle. And there's nothing like being in person. You can Zoom all day and YouTube, whatever, but it's not the same as being in person. And I apologize that Ken, messed up the poster and left people off. It's just, he makes mistakes. I don't. I should have made that myself, because then it would be no mistakes, because I don't make mistakes. Everybody that knows me is pretty aware of that. But humans do what they do, and it's the hardest part for me. I'm just tired. I'm just spiritually tired. I'm such an advanced being. I'm just tired. I'm tired of dealing with humans, mortals. I'm going to say something. My nephew, I love him to death. His name is Zane. My brother's son. Raised him since he was 14. But I think he was about 17 when he decided that he was just tired. I asked him, I said, why are you sleeping all the time? Are you depressed? No, I'm just tired. So you're tired? He's 17, right? I said, what are you tired? He says, I'm spiritually tired. He knows so much, it's just such a vast wealth of knowledge that he has accumulated in his brain. Especially at that age, he had already learned everything he needed to know about life. So he was just tired, He's just tired. Yeah. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry or both. Scorpion says, yeah, Wolf, you're perfect. Yeah, I know I am. Thank you. I can stay awake on post. I don't know, can you? Anyways, go down in that garage and look for Tuli's wallet. He's been crying about it. Tuli, if you're watching, yes, you have. Look, guys, I'm going to say this. You have an opportunity that may never come again. And I'm not trying. We're not even going to make money off of this thing. I've already done the math. Like, there is literally no way that I'm going to do anything but break even at best at this conference. There's a long shot that I will make money at it, but it's probably not going to happen. So this isn't a money thing, okay? This is me wanting to do something, bring people together, and my fans in particular can go and meet all these people of that you will maybe never be able to meet again, all in one place. This may never happen again. It's not easy bringing all these people. Actually, it kind of was, but I was shocked at how easy it was, actually, because they were all so willing to come together. But I've never seen this kind of a gathering before. I mean, with those kind of names, you got a lot of heavy hitters there, and it's going to be awesome. I can't stress it enough. You got to go. So, and I know we're in the middle of all this crap, Thank you for that. Fiendish, says Fiendish Dr. Smurf. Is that what you said? Happy Father's Day, Josh. You did an awesome job raising your nephews. Thank you. People always tell me, you don't have kids. You don't know what it's like to raise kids. I was like, are you kidding me? I've raised 3 of other people's kids. Actually, 4, really. One in particular just, made me want to pull my hair out, but they were all hard to deal with. I lived up there at that high school. I came in there and Miss Quinones had my name tag just ready. I knew all the wings, where to go. The English wing, okay. The math wing, history, science, wherever. I was up there like every day. This kid would just politely refuse to do school. The one I was just talking about, because he already knew everything. teacher's like, he just says, I'm not going to do it. It was just, it's a nightmare. Curtis says, I get to pick on AK, Mushu, Tony in person. Yeah. Be my guest. Just be careful. Okay. He's taken some kickboxing. Yeah, and it wasn't like these aren't my kids. I don't want to raise them. I love these boys. I loved them. I love these kids. But, you know, it is very hard when you're trying to work, run a business, and you're having to raise these kids, and they are, you know, it's like, it's just difficult. It was not easy. Anthony had to burn my house down. You know what he did? He put a pizza in the oven. I wake up and the whole house is just covered in smoke, black, thick. It was nasty. The whole house smelled like smoke for 2 or 3 months. Some stuff I even threw away because it just it couldn't get the smell out. I woke up and I finally get to the source of the smoke, and it's the oven. He had put a pizza in the oven, which these pizzas were about like that. It was this big. Size of a small hockey puck. The pan was completely ruined. It was just, I mean, that thing was burned to a crisp. I had to low crawl, not joking, wake him up, and he's over there just conked out. He put a piece of them and went to sleep. I mean, these are teenagers, they're kids. These silly, stupid things. I could go on. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. This I'm not going to talk about. It was just raising kids. And then this stupid lady one day at this meeting, she's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And this Miss Karen, okay, and you don't even have kids, right? And first of all, you don't know what I have or what I don't have, you know, lady. So about my nephews. I raised these kids. And I was very aggravated, and I was like, you know what? You try raising them. She looked like she was about to have 2 or 3, as fat as she was, but, you know, I think she was just fat. And then, of course, me being the person that I am, I was, you know, this was 12 years ago, whatever it was. I was at the PTA, whatever, the meeting for the school, whatever. And I said, look, I understand where you're coming from, being that you're pregnant. And she goes, excuse me, I am not pregnant. I'm like, oh, sorry, I thought you were expecting twins or triplets. Anyways, and I continued. And then she was like, oh, you're trying to be funny. You trying to be cute. There's this goofy face she made at me, like. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be funny or cute. I honestly thought you were pregnant. Do you need me to spell it out for you? You're really fat. So I guess that's just excess baggage. You're not going to make kids with that. That's just dough. I don't know, whatever. You know, it's just, she was very offended, very animated. And people talking about they have kids. Like, you don't have kids. But, you know, if you've raised them, the freaking heck is the difference? You raised them. You still raise children. You know what it's like. They do silly, crazy things. You know, you gotta, you know, they gotta learn. They just, you know, I've been through the ringer. And then people try to give you advice on, you know, this is how I raised my kids. Really? Tell me, enlighten me. Well, little Nathan likes to, you know, he plays video games, and I tell him, you have 30 minutes, and then you gotta go. Really? Yeah. Was he beating up other kids on the bus? Was he trying to fight you? Was he running away and getting picked up by the police? No? Okay, then shut up. I don't care about little Trevor or Nathan or little Ashley or little Fontaine or Bubblish Fisheye. I don't care about that. I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with. Okay? They panned out. They're all good kids. Zane's got his own place. He's great. He's doing okay. Anthony's just graduated from he's an architect. He just graduated from college. You know, Tony's co-hosting the show with me. We're good. But it could have not been good had I not been more just putting my heart and soul into raising them. Yeah. And then one day I was at the, and this was really messed up. I was eating at a bar and grill, which is more of a bar than a grill. And this woman had her kid there, and she's like with this baby, you know, bopping around with the baby, and she's drinking beer. And I look over, and the baby's just crying, and I'm trying to talk to this guy. And, yay! Baby's crying. Baby's crying because it doesn't need to be there at 11 o'clock at night while she's downing, you know, Michelob. Now, in her defense, it was Michelob Ultralight. And I looked over, and she's like, what? And what? That right there. Okay, if you start getting loud with me or being confrontational, or I'm not one of those people that's going to go like, oh, I better ignore her. I might get embarrassed by some loud mouth. I'm like, and what? And what? What are you going to do? What? Because you're holding a baby, you think I'm going to hold back and just be sitting up here or whatever? So I said something. I was like, why are you here with this kid at 11 o'clock at a bar and grill? And her friend across, I was like, don't you be worrying about it. I will worry about it. Why don't I just make a call and go ahead, call you wherever you want. So I actually did. I said, okay, I will. Made a phone call. They were both drunk. Then they tried to get up and leave real quick right before the police showed up. This was like right before the pandemic. Cops had, you know, I mean, they actually would respond, you know. And they were getting in their vehicle. They were drunk. And the mom went to jail. She's like, I hope you're happy. I said, I am. I am. I'm very happy. Because you're an unfit mother. Don't sit up there and challenge me and think I'm just going to be, I'm going to take your crap, because I'm not. You know? There's other things that went on too. I mean, they were said and done and whatever. And this woman had apparently been already neglectful, and stuff happens. But I'm sitting there trying to talk to somebody, and it was business, you know, and then here's this child that's probably 6 months old screaming, and she's drinking beer, you know, and I'm just like, and don't you worry about me, what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. If you ain't paying my rent, paying my bills, and paying my car payment, get my nails done, get my hair done, don't you tell me nothing. I can say whatever the heck I want to say. And let's get down to brass tacks. What are you going to do about it? You're just going to talk a lot of trash and run your big mouth, because that's all you can do. You ain't going to put hands on me. I put that on anyone. You ain't going to put hands on me. Believe me. And that's what this person was like, talking all this. I'm like, you're getting louder. It's going to make me go, oh, I better chill. Some guy did that during the pandemic at my wife. Called her the B word, said, you better watch it. Turned around, had a big old hunting knife behind his back. I'm not joking. This really happened. And I was like walking, you know, several feet behind her, and she backed up, and she was like, whoa. This guy got loud and aggressive, whatever. And I jumped right in front of him, and I was like, go ahead and pull that knife out and see what happens, boy. He starts looking around to see who was paying attention. I was like, don't worry about all these people. Worry about me. I'm the one who's in your face. Go ahead and pull that knife out. Let's see where it ends up. Pull it out. Go ahead, pull it out. Let's see where that blade ends up, boy. And my wife jumped back, and I was like, because that's the love of my life. And you're this close. Because there comes a point in time when I don't give a damn. You're not going to scare me with loud talk and bad words and threats. You know how many times I've heard, I'm going to come back blasting. Okay. I'll beat your mama's house. Go blast. A lot of people go, oh, you think you're tough. You know what? I can show you videos of me on the speed bag. I can show you videos of me lifting 660 pounds. You want me to put them on Facebook? I'll do it right now. You think I'm joking? And I am always protected. There's a lot of dummies out there running around doing stupid things. I have never seen so many stupid people. I am one of the people in this world that is fully capable of defending himself. Unless you are in that 10% of this planet that trains every day and are super athletic and you are at the top of your game and you're a professional fighter. If you're not Tyson Fury or, one of these MMA champions, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of them. I mean, that's why you have other things, weapons, whatever. But those are the only people that I'm worried about. I can't handle myself in a physical altercation. And some of these people that go around calling themselves fighters, you're not. Newsflash, you have no athletic ability. And I watch you train and you suck. You may get there at some point, but you're not there yet. You are not a Jedi yet. I'm not even going to give you the most impressive, because it's not. I see all these people talking on Facebook, and I know some of you, I know who you are. You think you're tough. You have no athletic ability. You ain't beat up nobody in a long, long time. Stop talking like you're a fighter, because you're not. You might have been at one time. That's like Zane, when he left high school to get his GED, and the next day he was looking for colleges to go to. You might get to see one on TV, but you're a long way from visiting one of those and actually going there. He panned out. He's okay. He did good. But you gotta realize where you're at in life. That you don't know everything. And people think they're the baddest person on the planet, and nobody really is. And I'm going to tell you something else. People say, oh, there's always somebody better than you. That goes without saying. That's the dumbest saying on earth. It's not a man, it's a time. Now, let me explain it to you. This is kind of paranormal here. Let me explain it to you. There is a time, this is what the Japanese, the Chinese, the Koreans, they all believe this, in East Asia in particular. They're very big on this. There's a time when your chi, or in Japanese it's called ki, is low. That you literally, a Girl Scout could beat you up. You think I'm joking? And then there is a time when your chi is so high that you can, if you're a spiritually balanced person, you know it. You're like, boom, boom, like there is nobody that can stop me right now. I am in the zone and I will destroy 5, 6, 7 people, because you feel it. You're there. You see it with professional athletes. They get in the zone and that's it. They're done. I mean, there's nobody can stop them. They just take over. Everybody has that ability. They just got to be able to find it. You got to find your chi, and you got to bring that energy up, raise it up, and keep it. I found ways to keep my chi high, to where I was always at a higher level, but nobody can do it all the time. After a big meal, probably not the best time to get into a fight. Let's be honest. If you walk in, I'll say Realities is a really good Italian place I like to go to. Or Ramon's. I like to go to this Mediterranean place. That's probably not the best time to walk out and go, you know what? I think I feel like fighting. This trucker over here is giving me the eye. What's up, buddy? He gets out with a tire iron and just, that's it. You're throwing up fettuccine. Probably not the best time to pick a fight. When you first wake up, you're kind of like, or if you're inebriated, it's probably not the point of your finer moments either. So you got to pick the time. The time is very important. Timing is very important. There's times when you're at your highest and times when you're really, really weak, and you need to shut up and not fight. There have been times when I fought guys, but what I did was I backed off the first time. It just was kind of like, this isn't a good time for me. Next time they come popping off, then you start swinging, because you know what? I'm feeling it today. Your jaw is going to be over here, and you're going to bleed purple blood out of your mouth, because that's what's going to happen. And then you embolden them when you kind of go, I'm not going to fight you today. They get emboldened. They're like, oh, this dude's a punk. I'm gonna beat this dude. You know, not gonna happen. See, that's what I'm talking about. There's a time. It's not a man that can beat you. It's a time. It's time. There's a time when you're just practically invincible, and then there's a time when you need to just shut up and walk away. And knowing those, that's the difference between jail, life, death. That's all that. Believe me. And it's something that's spiritually innate in you. You have to find it, though. I get people telling me, I'm spiritually, I have all this spiritual power, I can do all this stuff. Can you? Because if you are, then yeah, you'll be good at whatever it is that you choose to do, because the body will follow the will of the mind, and the mind follows the will of the spirit. Everybody out there, stay safe, stay blessed. I love everybody. I hope everybody had a good night. We had a good show. Everybody, send your stories. Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. The Patreon is patreon.com/PRT podcast. You can join. Anybody that can help join the Patreon and help support the show. It's great, and we can keep it going. We'll be here next week, and this Friday we'll do the show. It's going to be a pretty cool show. Bigfoot, we got some stuff going on. Stay blessed. Stay in God's good grace, because without him, you have nothing. So he says, get some rest, Wolf. Do I look haggard? I'm like, that's another time you shouldn't be fighting, when you're really tired, because somebody will come along fresh and beat the tar out of you. But just remember that. It's not a person, it's a time. And sometimes people just have the time and you don't. Believe me. Now, there are cases where somebody can get inside somebody's head. Think of Tyson Fury, what he did to Deontay Wilder. He beat the guy, pretty much beat him 3 times. And the first, they didn't count it, but he pretty much beat him 3 times. He just got his number, because you let him get in your head. But Tyson Fury is a prime example, and him and the Kalashnikovs of just knowing when to fight. Anyways, guys, thank you for showing up. Everybody, stay safe out there. Stay blessed. Watch out for all the knuckleheads. Are everywhere. We're getting outnumbered over here, I'm telling you. All right, man. PRT family, good night.